Well, in the US, the two presidential candidates are once again campaigning across several states on the final weekend of the election campaign. Already, many Americans have cast their ballots, and all eyes are now on the key battleground states. Well, Isabella Higgins joins us now from one of these states. It is the desert state of Arizona. Isabella, just take us through the sort of electoral issues that voters are concerned about in Arizona.
Good morning, Fauzia. I'm here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where there's been some local campaigning going on, and also not too far from where a major early voting centre is. Now, just this week, there have been visits from both Vice President Harris and Donald Trump. They have been trying to appeal to Arizona, to the very important voters here in this swing state. Now, President Harris has been talking a lot about women's rights and also about the economy. Now, Donald Trump has made his message about border security and also about the economy. The two events that they held in Arizona this week show perhaps the different groups that they're trying to target. Now, Vice President Harris's event, it was very much trying to target the Latina or Hispanic community. It had a very well-known Mexican-American band, and there was a lot of messages there about unity and bringing people together and the American dream. Donald Trump's event was with Tucker Carlson. It was a hurricane relief event, and it was a very different demographic. I was at that event, and it looked like it was largely white Americans who were in attendance there. I did see a few people wearing shirts, Latinos for Trump. So the messages are not too dissimilar, very much focused on the economy, the price of living, but President Harris is really focusing on women's rights and about cohesiveness in society, while Donald Trump is talking very much about securing those borders. And here in Arizona, it shares a border with Mexico, so it's a very live issue here. And as I said, a place where there's a really big Latina community, so this is something that I've heard people are furiously debating over the dinner table whether people are first generation or second generation immigrants here.
Isabella, we've already reported that many Americans have already cast their ballots. I think I read the latest numbers is something like 55 million already. Is there any indication as to how Arizona will vote this time round?
Fauzia, Arizona is much like the national polls, absolutely on a knife's edge, although it does look like from some of the local polls here that maybe Donald Trump has a slight edge, although within the margin of error, because it's going to be such a close race here. We've heard from officials who've said don't expect the result to come in quickly. In fact, they've suggested it might be days or weeks before the results in key counties here in Arizona come in. And there is some concern about that. Some people have described Arizona as a hotbed for election denialism, of course relating to the 2020 election, and also a hotbed for misinformation and conspiracy theories. So there's some concern that if this vote takes a long time, there's going to be frustration in the community, that people are going to think that there's something going on, something fraudulent, despite the fact that officials have worked really hard over the last 4 years to try and restore people's faith in the electoral process and how that ballot counting takes place.
Now, Arizona, usually known as a traditional red state, but it does seem to be changing. I'm just looking at data here from 2020. It turned blue. So why is it changing?
Yeah, Fauzia, Arizona is a really interesting place. It's become a real melting pot of cultures. Joe Biden was the first president to win this state since the 1990s with Bill Clinton. And people suggest it's partly because of the changing demographics of this state. The Latina community is growing. It's estimated to be up to 30%, so a really large voting bloc, and they tend to be more Democrat-leaning, although it's not a monolith. People do vote differently, and people are very interested to see how that community votes this election. But there's also been a lot of people who've moved from other parts of California for economic reasons, places like California and also the Midwest, so people moving from all over the country to here in Arizona, which is changing the demographics of the place.
Very interesting indeed. Isabella Higgins there, speaking to us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you. And we will, of course, have full coverage of the US election here on the ABC News channel. Join us for the count from 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time this coming Wednesday, the 6th of November.